Hello world, Kyle here with NimbleNoggin.io, and we are deep inside the Swift Component Store app all the way into the text fields view controller. And this video will be about an important thing to remember when working with NSTimers. You can see that we have an NSTimer running in the background so that we are changing the text every 1 second on this label. So it's a cool little waiting sort of animation thing going on. There's sort of a gotcha that I would like to cover about NSTimers so that it could maybe save you some time in the future if you do run into this. An example of that one gotcha here is that when we do edit these text fields in the screen so that the label stops animating from waiting and it actually shows the sum of the two text field values, when we clear one of the text fields, it should go back to animating the waiting label. And right now it looks how we want it to. It looks how we expect it to look. And that's because of one important line here, which is the invalidate method on the timer. So we're just telling our class's reference to that NSTimer to invalidate. And you can see that we have it up here too, because there are two situations in the logic that we would need the timer to stop running, and that's what that method does. It just stops the timer from ticking and calling whatever selector it's attached to every interval. So what this logic says here is that if there's a number in each text field, then we will tell the timer to stop, which will stop any of the animations here, but then we're going to change that UI label's text to the sum of first and the second number in the text fields. But if there's not a first and second number, then we'll stop the timer and then we'll start animating that label again. And if you remember in the start animating label method, that we just set the timer to a new instance and we restart it with an interval of 1 pointing at that animate label method and make sure that it does repeat. And it's important that we do stop the timer here in case it ever is running. And the best way to show you why, I think, is to just get rid of it and see what happens. And I'll explain what does happen when we see it. So we're back on this screen, and we can see that the waiting label is animating beautifully. So let's change the text so it stops animating. It now says 2. So I'm going to remove. Okay, so we actually need to get rid of both of those invalidate methods right there. And now we're going to go back into the app. We're back in this text field view controller, and the waiting label is animating how we want it to. And I'm just going to put 2 numbers in these 2 text fields so that the sum does display in place of the waiting label at the top, which is all fine and dandy. But as soon as we backspace on one of the text fields so that the text is nil or an empty string, the waiting label starts animating, but it looks a little messed up and disjointed. It's not changing its text at an interval of every 1 second. And the reason for this is that even though we may have called this start animating label method again and reset our reference of our NSTimer to a brand new instance, which is pointing at the exact same selector with the same other parameters. But the problem is that we never told our previous timer to invalidate, so we might not have a reference to it anymore. It's not getting garbage collected through Arc because it's still running in the background, and we don't have that reference anymore. So we cannot tell it to stop because our previous reference has been overwritten with a new instance, and both of them are running at the same time. So both timers are firing every 1 second, but they're not paying attention to each other. The first one is firing every 1 second and the other one is firing every 1 second, but they're not lining up so that the waiting label text looks like it has kind of a limp going on. And that's the gotcha about NSTimers, is that you need to call the invalidate method anytime you want to stop the timer or anytime that the timer shouldn't be running. Even if right here, how we just want to reset the timer because it's not even running in the situation where there's a number in each text field. As soon as we erase this one number, it's going to go back, and now there should be 3 NSTimers running independently of each other, and it's just going to get worse and worse. So if we remember to call invalidate whenever we want to pause or stop the timer. So then when we do reset the reference to the NSTimer we have to a brand new instance, that old timer will get garbage collected, it will stop running, you don't have to worry about it anymore. Which is great. Thanks for watching.